She didn't see a server. She saw a stereotype. Red wine burst across the white dress, a violent splash against clean fabric. Elizabeth's smile said the mess was the point. The Boston Charity Gala hummed with a string quartet. Crystal chandeliers glittered. Orchids perfumed the tables. It looked like generosity and sounded like pedigree. Jennifer, 24, balanced a tray as if it were just one more weight on a crowded day. An MBA student at Harvard, she'd taken the extra shift to cover bills and help her family. Her natural hair was tucked in a neat bun. Her steps were steady. "Oops," Elizabeth breathed, too sweet to be kind. The glass slipped from her hand, shattered, and the wine bled across Jennifer's skirt. Shame, some people can't move properly in civilized spaces. Heads turned. Forks paused. A few faces flushed. Others watched, curious, as if the scene were part of the entertainment. Who was really being measured here? "I'm sorry, Mom," Jennifer said, crouching to collect the shards. Her voice held. "I'll take care of it." Elizabeth raised her volume for nearby tables. Accidents were bound to happen, she said, when events hired this kind of people. The words were slow acid, meant to sting and to stick. Jennifer didn't flinch. She'd learned early that real strength doesn't perform. It studies, it waits, it chooses the moment. South side of Chicago. Single mother, 3 jobs. She carried that training the way she carried the tray. Close to the body, never dropped. A question hung over the linens. Would she answer insult with anger or with control? "Of course, Mom," she replied, calm enough to bother Elizabeth, who expected tears or heat. "I'll make sure it's handled." Jennifer rose, gathered the broken stemware, and moved toward the kitchen, the wet fabric cooling against her knees. At the main table, a silver-haired man watched, face unreadable. Their eyes met for a breath. He nodded once, a small acknowledgement that didn't ask for credit. Charles, a real estate power by reputation, had built his fortune on noticing people when they thought no one was looking. Tonight, he saw 2 truths: his wife's cruelty laid plain, and a young woman holding her ground under pressure. Contrast sharpened everything. Crystal light above, humiliation below. Behind the kitchen door, Jennifer's hands trembled as she slid the shards into a bin. 20 minutes earlier, she'd been another student working an extra shift. Now, resolve gathered like thread in a needle. She wouldn't give the room the reaction it expected. She would decide the next move. What happens when dignity becomes strategy? She straightened, smoothed the stained skirt, and breathed. The quartet played on. In the dining room, conversation resumed. And yet the night had tilted. Something in her, and perhaps in one observer, had shifted from endurance to intention. No one in that glittering room guessed the server they'd just mocked carried a past that could flip the script. What looked like a small humiliation was about to become a hinge. If you've witnessed moments like this, and want to see how one night can upend the certainty of people who think they're untouchable, stay with this story. Underestimating someone can cost more than any fortune. Elizabeth wasn't finished. While Jennifer returned from the kitchen with fresh towels and a clean uniform, the socialite gathered a circle of admirers. She played to them, voice rich with outrage, as if policing the guest list were an act of public service. Someone must have failed to screen the staff, she insisted. Ashley, heir to a pharmaceutical fortune, nodded along. Yesterday, she'd dismissed a maid for questioning her methods, she said. Some people needed boundaries. Who was truly being tested here? Jennifer stepped back into the hall and felt the weight of their stares. The group had grown. As she reset glasses at a nearby table, the comments floated over like perfume gone sour. She probably needs this job. At least she knows her place. Elizabeth saw Jennifer and pitched her voice higher. "No need to be harsh," she said. "Not everyone is born with a silver spoon and proper schooling." What Elizabeth didn't know, Jennifer had graduated summa cum laude in economics from the University of Chicago. She'd earned her place at Harvard. As a teen, she translated legal documents for her mother, who cleaned offices at night to raise 3 kids. At 16, Jennifer took over the family finances and grew their savings into a fund that paid for her brother's college. Jennifer finished the table in steady silence. Ashley couldn't resist a final prod. "Dear," she said, sugar over steel, "workers should stay discreet. Avoid drawing attention." "Yes, ma'am," Jennifer answered, calm and direct. Her gaze didn't drop. Something in that tone unsettled Ashley. Presence, precision. The stereotype wouldn't hold. Elizabeth stepped in to escalate. "Ashley is right," she declared, rising with a practiced smile. "Perhaps we should review proper protocol." A beat. "You can read, can't you?" The cruelty was measured, public, designed to land. Fawkes paused. Conversations thinned to a hush. What response did the room expect? Anger, apology, retreat? "I read perfectly well," Jennifer said, voice even, eyes fixed. Elizabeth laughed, a sharp, unpleasant trill. "Wonderful. Then read this for us." She thrust the printed menu toward Jennifer, loud enough to carry. "So, we're certain the service staff knows what's being served to important guests." Choice gathered like breath before a dive. Comply and shrink the moment? Or meet it head-on and set the terms? Jennifer reached for the cardstock, steady as a metronome. The room watched, waiting for the turn. She meant it to bruise. Elizabeth wanted Jennifer to stumble, to trip over the French on the card, to refuse, and hand her a reason to call security. From the head table, Charles watched, shame and anger rolling through him. 23 years beside Elizabeth had revealed many edges. Tonight, they were honed to cruelty. Jennifer accepted the menu. Her hands were steady. She met Elizabeth's eyes, let a small smile show, and said, "With pleasure, ma'am." Then, the room tilted. Jennifer began to read. Fluent, unhurried, each sound exact. French learned during a 2-year exchange in Lyon on a merit scholarship. Amuse, bouche d'aigrac, jalita champagne, suivi par le tage, parentière aux truffes noires du Périgord. Her voice carried like music. Not imitation. Assurance. Who exactly was out of place? Colour drained from Elizabeth's face. Ashley's mouth fell open. The circle traded uneasy glances. Jennifer continued to the end. Edipor, termina, luleo gran Maria, accompagné d'une la vanilla de Madagascar. She closed the menu and returned it with a calm smile. "I hope that was helpful, ma'am." Silence pressed in. Fawkes hovered. The room had its answer. The waitress matched any pedigree in sight. Charles rose and crossed to them. His gaze met Jennifer's. Respect, not pity, and something near admiration. "Elizabeth," he said, soft but unmistakable. "Perhaps we focus on the purpose of the evening." "Charity?" Elizabeth gathered herself in a practiced breath. "Of course, dear. Just ensuring protocols are understood." Jennifer nodded and stepped away. Work resumed, posture unbroken. Ashley leaned in, voice thin. "Darling, perhaps we misjudged." Elizabeth gripped her arm too hard. "We didn't misjudge anything," she hissed. "Amic tricks don't change who she is. Before the night ends, everyone will understand that." Contrast sharpened again. Rage in whispers, poise in motion. What Elizabeth couldn't know, Jennifer had spent 4 years documenting racial discrimination for her MBA thesis. She carried discreet recorders. She knew civil rights law inside and out. Every poisonous word tonight was being captured, time-stamped, saved. As Elizabeth plotted another cut, Jennifer moved through the hall with quiet certainty, a keeper of a secret too strong to reveal early. She'd learned young. Real power doesn't shout. It observes, documents, and acts at the most exacting moment. Charles returned to his seat, attention still tethered to the woman his wife had targeted. Dignity has a way of showing, uniform or not. He couldn't look away. No one in that ballroom guessed the server they tried to belittle would, in a few weeks, become the youngest senior analyst at a top consulting firm. Every slight tonight was turning into evidence, fuel for a kind of justice that lingers. In the marble bathroom, Jennifer finally let the tremor out of her hands. Not fear, controlled adrenaline, the kind she knew from Chicago streets. She slipped a tiny recorder from her pocket and checked the file. 23 minutes, crystal clear, slurs, explicit bias, deliberate humiliation. All logged. Her MBA thesis focused on racial microaggressions in elite corporate spaces. Tonight had become a case study with teeth. But the mirror answered with a different question. Was this still research? Or something larger? A soft knock. "Jennifer, are you okay?" Charles's voice carried through the door. She recognized it from the organizer huddles. She thought of staying silent, then opened up. He stood alone in the hallway, hands clasped, posture giving away nerves. "I'm sorry for my wife's behavior," he said. "There's no excuse." Jennifer studied his face. 24 years had taught her to sort pity from respect. In his eyes she saw shame turned inward, rare in men of his standing. "Mr. Hartwell, I appreciate it," she said, "but you aren't responsible for her choices." "I am, in part," he answered. 23 years, and too many chances to correct this. I failed. He took a breath. "May I ask directly? You're not only a waitress, are you?" What did he notice? The French, the poise, the refusal to bend? Jennifer let herself smile briefly. "What makes you think that?" "Your French outpaced anyone in that room," he said. "Your posture, your clarity, your composure under attack. I know intelligence when I see it." "I'm an MBA student at Harvard," she said at last. "I wait tables to support my family and finish school." He closed his eyes, absorbing it. Harvard. My God, Elizabeth targeted a Harvard student because of her race. "This happens more than you think," Jennifer replied. "Your wife said out loud what many think quietly." "That makes it worse," Charles said, voice rougher than he intended. "Not better," he steadied. "What's your focus at Harvard?" "Systemic discrimination in corporate environments," she said. "My thesis looks at how prejudice shapes opportunities for minorities." He fell quiet, weighing something. "Jennifer, I have a proposal. It may sound unusual." 15 minutes later, they sat in a secluded corner of the lobby, away from the gala's eyes. 2 coffees between them. He spoke low, like a man planning a pivot. "My company, Hartwell Development, has real diversity problems. The board wants change that isn't cosmetic. Recent incidents made that obvious." Jennifer listened, antennae tuned. What was he asking? Atonement or action? "I need someone with your expertise to audit our hiring, promotions, and culture," he said. "Someone who understands theory and the lived reality." "That's generous, Mr. Hartwell," she began. "It isn't generosity," he cut in. "It's necessity and self-interest. We need real change, and you can drive it." He slid a card across the table. "External consulting," he said. "Compensation in line with market rates for a specialist of your caliber." The ballroom hummed on. Somewhere, a quartet threaded a last note. Jennifer touched the card, recorder quiet in her pocket, and considered the next move. What serves justice best? Exposure, reform, or both? He slid the card across the table. "You'd have full control, methods and conclusions." Jennifer felt the weight of it settle in her palm. "Why offer this to me?" "Because I let prejudice sit in my own house for 23 years, Charles said. "Because my company likely mirrors the problems you study. And because, after what I witnessed, I need to repair harm, not with words, with work." Elizabeth appeared at the edge of the lobby, smile tight as a lid. "Charles, dear," she said, closing the distance. "What are you doing here? With her?" "I've offered Jennifer a consulting role at the company," he replied. The air thickened. Elizabeth looked from him to Jennifer as if catching a betrayal mid-breath. "You're joking." A brittle laugh escaped. "Charles, she's a waitress." "She's an MBA student at Harvard," he said evenly, "with expertise in exactly what we need." Elizabeth's face went pale. "Harvard?" "Yes. The woman you humiliated is working here to support her family and finish her degree." Jennifer watched their exchange like a field note come to life. Shock first, then calculation. How fast would reputation management kick in? "Well," Elizabeth tried, Even if that's true, we shouldn't make rash decisions from guilt. It isn't guilt, Charles said. It's competence and business need. Elizabeth turned to Jennifer, voice honeyed. Darling, misunderstandings happen at events. Let's forget tonight's little... There was no misunderstanding, Jennifer said. Your remarks were specific and clear. Of course, Elizabeth pressed on, but context can be complicated. People with my training are careful with context and meaning, Jennifer answered, especially when racial discrimination is documented. The single word landed. Documented. Charles saw her flinch. Elizabeth, he asked, were you recorded? Jennifer didn't confirm or deny. Silence did the work. Elizabeth understood then that the evening had shifted beyond insult into consequence. Jennifer, Charles said, standing, I await your answer. My assistant will send contract details tomorrow. They walked off together, voices dropping into a quarrel as they disappeared around the corner. Was the calculation arriving too late? Back in the bathroom, Jennifer checked the device again. 23 minutes of explicit bias. 15 more of frantic damage control. For her thesis, a trove. For her career, a path to put theory into practice. She smoothed her uniform, breathed once, and faced the mirror. The sting of the night was already turning into direction. What began as humiliation had become groundwork for an audit, for change, for measurable results inside a powerful company. Elizabeth had attacked a waitress. What she'd actually challenged was a future expert who might now examine her husband's firm from the inside. The irony was sharp, but Jennifer kept her focus where it mattered. Careful notes, steady process, outcomes that last. She tucked the recorder away. Tonight, closed one chapter and opened another. Elizabeth meant to put Jennifer in her place. Instead, she launched her toward power she'd used to keep others from facing the same public cut. The server was about to become the consultant. 3 weeks later, Elizabeth woke with a churn in her gut. Her phone glared, 47 missed calls, hundreds of messages. She opened Ashley's 6 a.m. link and felt the floor tilt. Business executive attacked for racial discrimination. Viral audio exposes Boston elite, blared the Boston Herald. A gala photo froze her disdain forever. The 23-minute recording spun on every major station. Her own words, clean as glass, followed by angry hosts and witnesses. Elizabeth ran downstairs. Charles sat with coffee, face set. Cold, distant, done. Do something, she pleaded, shaking the phone. This is a coordinated attack. That waitress is trying to destroy us. That waitress is our new corporate diversity consultant, Charles said, eyes still on the paper. And after hearing that audio, I understand exactly why we need her. What did you say? Jennifer started yesterday. First task, a full audit of culture, including leadership. He finally met her eyes. You grasp the implications. Whose world was about to be measured? Hers or the company's? Her phone rang. Margaret, the tennis club chair. Emergency vote this morning. Your membership is revoked. The behaviour on the recording violates our values. Click. Notifications flooded. The ladies who lunch chat ate itself. I can't believe I sat with her for years. My daughter's at Harvard. How many Jennifers did she humiliate? James says no more business with Hartwell Development. On Instagram, 3,000 followers gone overnight. Comments stacked like stones. What a disgusting person. Rich racist exposed. I hope she learned something, Ashley called, sobbing. Charles cancelled the office renovation. He won't be tied to toxic elements. I'm ruined. Breath shortened to gasps. Charles, make the audio disappear. Sue her. Do something. He stood, slow and steady. You recorded it. Every word is yours. There's nothing to sue but your own cruelty. Another call. Dr. Harrison from the Charitable Foundation, where she'd been volunteer vice president for 8 years. The board voted unanimously to remove you from all positions, effective immediately. His voice was ice. What remains when image is stripped away? Elizabeth sagged into a chair. In under a day, she'd lost standing, friendships, charity roles, and her community's trust. Charles folded the newspaper. The irony? Jennifer didn't have to move a muscle. She let your words speak. At that hour, Jennifer was at Hartwell Development, being introduced to HR. An elegant suit, a briefcase of structural proposals. The work would not be performative. Systems, audits, results. She moved from the help to trusted consultant in under a month. At Hartwell Development, Charles announced, Jennifer will lead our diversity and inclusion initiative. She has full authority to make needed changes. Curious faces turned toward her. Many had heard the audio. Most understood what it meant. My aim isn't punishment, Jennifer told the room. It's building a culture where everyone is valued, no matter background or appearance. What matters more, retribution or repair? Across town, Elizabeth stayed shuttered at home, watching her feed curdle. Every ping carried a new cut. Invitations withdrawn, friendships gone quiet, doors shutting. Margaret posted a tennis club photo praising true values. Even the hairdresser marked her fully booked. That night, Charles found Elizabeth crying before the mirror. 23 years, he said. I lived beside this and chose not to see. Please, Charles, can we talk? It was a misunderstanding. It wasn't, he answered. It was you. Recorded this time. He opened the closet and began packing. My lawyers will deliver the divorce papers tomorrow. The house is yours. Assets will be divided by the court. You can't be serious. Over a waitress? Over a Harvard student you attacked for her race, he said. Over 23 years of cruelty. As the suitcase closed, the truth landed. It wasn't only a marriage falling away. It was a life built on brittle privilege. What remains when the mask is gone? Morning brought motion. In her apartment near Harvard, Jennifer dressed for work that could reshape a company. Texts stacked up, colleagues, professors, strangers offering support. What began as an extra shift had become a mandate for measurable change. Elizabeth, meanwhile, faced the wreckage of status. Jennifer walked toward a future built on competence, dignity, and a choice. Turn humiliation into purpose. Who defines power? The one with status, or the one who builds systems? 6 months on, Jennifer became Director of Diversity at Hartwell Development. She implemented policies that other firms soon studied as a national model. Her private consultancy grew fast, serving major companies seeking real change. Elizabeth lived reclusive in an empty mansion. Divorced, friendless, edged out of circles she once ruled. Public pleas for forgiveness drew more criticism. Image repair campaigns failed, one after another. Charles remarried, a civil rights lawyer, and committed half his fortune to college scholarships for students like Jennifer. At Harvard's commencement, Jennifer addressed the graduates. Never let prejudice set your worth. The best revenge is the success they never imagined. The viral audio surfaced in classrooms as a case study on consequences. Cruelty became a lesson. Process became protection. Jennifer turned a wound into work, and work into legacy. If you believe no one should be judged by skin colour or origin, stay with stories that prove underestimation costs more than any fortune.